Affinity bias is the tendency for us to favour certain situations, certain tasks, or certain people, simply because we're a bit more familiar with them. How does this affect our day-to-day lives? Well, some of our affinity biases will affect some of the smaller decisions we make on a day-by-day. If you're one of those people who likes to have the same thing for lunch every day, it's fair to say you might have a bit of affinity bias going on. But for some of us, this might have much bigger implications without us even knowing. These biases can impact our world massively, affecting who we build relationships with, who we choose to ignore building relationships with, and ultimately it might affect the service that we provide people, because we might be favouring some people over others without even realising it, and we don't want that to happen. So let's have a little look at an interesting activity to see how these affinity biases do affect our world. On a piece of paper that you've got somewhere near you, I'd like you to write down a list of 6 people that you would consider to be friends. Choose 3 people who you know through the context of work. That could be your current role or a previous one. And 3 others that you know from outside of work. Now, if you're not someone who has a large social circle and you prefer a quieter life, then simply pick the 6 people you end up spending most time with. If you're someone who prefers to keep work and social life separate, then just choose 6 friends from outside work. If you need a little time to think about these people, pause the video now and click play to continue when you're ready. Next up, you'll need the activity sheet. If you need to download it or print it out, it's available on the top right corner of this page. On the handout, you'll see that we have populated the first column with the 9 protected characteristics. What I would like you to do is head up the remaining columns with the names of the people you've chosen as your 6 friends. Your table should look something like this. What I'd like you to do next is to put a tick against the criteria where that person matches you, and a cross where they do not. In other words, when you consider that protected characteristic, are you the same as them or different? So for example, if I were to select Kate as my first work friend, then I would fill in the column under their name as follows. Now, as youthful as Kate looks, and as old as I appear, we aren't actually too close together on the age front. Certainly I'd say not within a couple of years of each other. So as such, I'll put a cross in that box, as we don't share that same characteristic. Moving on to disability, neither of us have a disability, so I'd mark a tick as we share that same status in that category. Gender reassignment, neither of us are undergoing any form of gender reassignment, so again, we both share the status, meaning a tick. Neither of us are married, so it's a tick. Neither of us are pregnant or on maternity leave, so that's a tick. We're both of the same race, so that's a tick. And we're both of the same religion, so that's a tick. And although we are very similarly behaved and often confused for being the same person, we are in fact people of a different sex. So that one's a cross for us, as I am male and Kate is female. Finally, we're both of the same sexual orientation, so it's another tick in that category. So I'd like you to work through your own activity sheet in this way for each of your 6 friends. Do you share the same characteristic as that person? If yes, put a tick. If no, put a cross. So pause the video now to fill in your activity sheet and press play once you're ready to continue. When I first did this exercise, I was really surprised to find that I only had crosses in 4 of the boxes. And I have a crashing moment of self-awareness where I accept that I'm not as worldly wise as I think I am. Now, this isn't to say that we now need to go out into the world and try to make as many friends with as many different people with as many different characteristics to ourselves as possible. It's just an exercise to help us realise how some of our inbuilt biases have affected our relationships throughout our lives, and to help us understand how our life circumstances have led us to having social circles full of people like us. This does not make you a bad person. It may simply mean that there are groups within society that you know very little about, other than that which you have heard from third parties or been exposed to in the media. And as we discussed on the training day, this can lead us into very dangerous territory. So, the next time you meet someone, regardless of whether they may or may not sit within one of these protected characteristics, recognise that there is an individual in front of you. Recognise that the likelihood is, at least to start with, that you have very little information about them, and what you do have might be based on assumptions. Take the time to understand the world from their perspective in a respectful way.